All right, today we are diving into something that feels like a whole new way to think about AI, especially in places where you just can't afford mistakes, like finance. It's called the Unkai Protocol. And look, this isn't just another app or piece of software. It's more like a new rulebook, a new operating system for how humans and AI are gonna work together. So, yeah, let's break this thing down and see why it might just change everything.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts, let's start with a question that really gets right to the heart of the problem. What if that super smart AI running your company's books makes a mistake? A small error that it just quietly fixes, or worse, doesn't notice? A mistake that no one ever finds out about. That single, terrifying possibility is exactly what this whole architecture is built to prevent.
So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the big problem in AI accounting. Then, we'll get into this wild idea of a new financial operating system. After that, we'll see how it actually works, what the AI's real job is in this setup, and finally, we'll talk about why this kind of model feels, well, pretty much inevitable.
Okay, first up, the AI accounting dilemma. You can think of this as the big fundamental tug of war that everyone in this space is dealing with, right? We all want the incredible speed and brain power of AI, but we absolutely positively cannot accept the kinds of risks that come with letting these systems run wild in the world of finance.
And this slide really nails the core issue. It shows the two big, flawed assumptions our current systems are built on. On one side, you've got your traditional software. It just assumes certainty. It believes that whatever a human types in is 100% correct. Then on the other side, you have the new wave of autonomous AI, and it assumes its own competence, that it's smart enough to figure things out and manage them behind the scenes. In finance, both of those assumptions are not just wrong, they are incredibly dangerous. So, what's the answer? How do you fix that? Well, the whole idea behind the NKite protocol is that we don't just need a better app. No, we need a totally new foundation, a whole new kind of operating system that's built on a completely different philosophy. And this right here is the key. You have to stop thinking of this as AI accounting software. That's not what it is. What we're talking about here is a governed financial OS. It's an entire environment where the rules, not the algorithms, have the final say. Always. And here it is, the core principle that flips everything on its head. Unlike all those other systems that assume either certainty or competence, this model starts from the complete opposite direction. It assumes uncertainty is the normal default state of things. So every single time there's an ambiguity, it must be brought to the surface and resolved, explicitly by a human who has the authority to make that call. So how do you enforce that? With these, the Nkai mandates. These are the non-negotiable rules. No hidden operations happening in the background. No AI quietly learning from its mistakes without any oversight. Absolutely no uncontrolled execution. Every important move has to go through a human gatekeeper. And this is huge. Every single thing that happens gets recorded in a log that can never be changed, only added to. Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but how does this assume uncertainty philosophy actually work in practice? Well, the key to the whole thing is a concept they call confidence.
See, in this system, when an AI looks at, say, a transaction, it gives it a confidence score. But that score isn't just a helpful little note for a human to glance at. No way. It is a hard-coded control gate. It's not a suggestion, it's a rule that literally dictates what is physically allowed to happen next. This table shows you exactly how that control gate works. So let's walk through it. If the AI has high confidence, the system will go ahead and auto-prepare the entry. But, and this is key, it never finalizes it. A human still has to be the one to push the final button. Now, if the confidence is just medium, the system says, nope, authority is ambiguous. It's not a choice. It triggers a mandatory human review. And finally, if the confidence is low, the AI's authority is just considered invalid. Period. The system completely blocks the action and immediately escalates it to a human. The point is, the AI never ever gets the final word. Another really brilliant piece of this is how the system remembers things. When a person steps in and corrects something the AI proposed, the original AI output isn't deleted or overwritten. Instead, the human's correction is added as a new entry that supersedes the old one. Just think of it like a court transcript. You never erase anything, you just add to the record. And this append-only memory is frankly a game changer. It creates this perfect, unchangeable audit trail that regulators and auditors can actually read and make sense of. It's safe if you ever end up in court. And crucially, it stops the AI from silently learning from its own corrections, which could hide some really nasty systemic problems down the line.
So this all brings up a really important question, right? If you've built this whole system around human authority and keeping a perfect record of their decisions, what's left for the AI to do? Well, its role is actually incredibly powerful, but it has very, very clear boundaries. And that's where we get to the core idea. Its job is to compute, not to control. This quote from the source material just says it all. You can have an AI, like the financial model Digits, be as advanced and AI native as it wants to be on the inside, but the second it connects to this operating system, it has to submit to what's called authority continuity, that unbreakable chain of human command and oversight. I love this slide because it's basically a job description for the AI. What's it responsible for? Proposing transactions, classifying data, predicting outcomes, and scoring its own confidence. Now, what is it absolutely forbidden from doing? It can never finalize the books. It can't own the official data. It doesn't get to keep its own memory. And it can absolutely, under no circumstances, override a human. It's an advisor, not the boss. Okay, so let's pull all the way back for the last and, honestly, the most important point here. Why is this model more than just a smart idea for accountants? Well, the argument is that this isn't just a better system. It's an inevitable one for any field where you have the crazy power of AI smashing up against non-negotiable human responsibility. So get this straight in your head. If you use this model, you are not building an AI accountant. That whole way of thinking about it is just wrong. What you are building is a system where automation is always, always supervised and never, ever just blindly trusted. And that single distinction, supervision versus trust, that is everything. That's the whole ballgame. And when you make that shift, the strategic impact is just enormous. Suddenly, companies can use the most powerful AI on the planet without giving up human authority. They can scale their business without accountability just dissolving into thin air. It gives regulators a system they can actually wrap their heads around and audit. And maybe most importantly, it puts the authorship of financial truth firmly back into human hands. It's a framework that actually solves that core fight between speed and safety. Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. We've seen how this works for finance, right? But is this model, this hard-coded, non-negotiable layer of human authority, is that the missing piece for safely using AI in all critical fields? From medicine to law to running our power grids. Is supervision, not just trust, the only real path forward?